Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's April 23rd, and this will be our chart lesson. And we had a big gap open today, but notice we turned down right at the highs of the range again. This sideways stuff. I'm not sure what happened to my audio right in here. I've got like 3 minutes of no audio, maybe 3.5 minutes. And I'm not sure what happened, so I'm just going to kind of rehash what we're talking about here. We're just in a range as far as this goes, and I think I expanded the range there a little bit, thinking that maybe it looks like the range is maybe wider than I originally thought. So we'll see how this kind of plays out from this point forward, and see if maybe we have a wider range there. So again, I don't know what happened to my audio, but I lost about 3 minutes of it there. Again, maybe closer to 4 minutes. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through this part of it. I'm going to stop this. This is enough about the daily chart, but I'm going to move on over into the trades. Here we go. We're moving into them now. So I'll just talk you through these trades as we see them here. We got an uptrend there, break, and move to a new high. And then we went into a range. There was a couple of news items. I'm talking about those news items there. Let's just move on over here until we get right into the trades, and we'll just kind of speed this up. Well, we'll just play it out here. But we had a failed breakout and then moved lower on the, had a trend down, then we had a break of that trend and another trend down to make a new low, and then we had two legs up after that, basically. And in the big scheme of things, we just had a big range, and I'm drawing that range out here. And you can see most of the support is along that low of where I drew it, and most of the resistance is up there at the high where I already had the smaller range. There is a big gap there. I just showed you the gap. Prices were not able to fill that gap, so will we try to fill them tomorrow? We'll see. But we certainly did not fill it today. That lower part of the range where we opened up last night at 5 o'clock or whatever, that tended to be the strong support all day long. I guess I'm talking about this first trade. We had a second entry right here. You can clearly see the two legs down. You can't trade that on the engulfing bar. You can wait till that engulfing bar to close, and then you can enter one tick above that. I like that trade, actually. So there's a higher low there, but I felt like prices had moved a little too far for that, but it is right off the key entry point. So maybe you take that trade. And then technically there's a failed second entry short there, and there's a second entry long. And technically it is not a second entry long because it's like a third, but I still think you can count that as two legs back to the EMA and take that like a second entry and a failed second entry short. Normally you wouldn't take a failed second entry short outside the trend line, but since you had a second entry or two legs back to the EMA and it's holding, I think you can take that trade. So I liked it. And we're getting close here to where our volume may come back. And so I don't know what I'm even talking about here. I guess I'm talking about this was a big rally. There's a second entry right there, but it's a huge bar, and I didn't mark it. But you could take it if you. I think it was a little risky since it was an engulfing bar and it was just such a big bar after. But I'm not crazy about it. But that'd be the only way you could enter there on that second entry. You don't have a break of this channel or anything, and so you're kind of taking. Now you do get a close outside and a new high all in one bar, but by the time you went long here, you wouldn't have had that, and so it'd be hard to know if you were going to get a close outside and a new low in place or not. But this thing really takes off. I guess it had something to do with this speaker here, something he must have said, but it really takes off. And we do have the 845 manufacturing PMI, and you can't go, you got to be flat on that. So I did blew that out right here. No trades in there. I don't see much going on in there. There maybe is a second entry or at least one in there, but I think you have to sit tight. And maybe you go short here. Notice you're working up and you get a first entry and then you get a second entry right here. Want to break below that bar. I mean, it's a huge bar, 56 ticks, but it qualifies if you want to go short there. I made it green for that reason, but you could go long. You could go short there. I'm sorry. I got to sit this out and you get this channel working up. And it's hard to say if we had a close outside here or not, convincing close, and then we turn back down. But you really get two legs down. But you go sideways first, and notice you get a 1, 2, 3 triple test. Plenty of room to get out. I like going long there. Turns back down and then breaks out here. I don't see anything that would make me go long there. And then you got some more craziness right here, right at 9 o'clock. New home sales came out. That's more medium, but it looks like it really, there must have been some kind of surprise in there in the new home sales because it really kind of went haywire there. But I don't see anything I'd want to trade there regardless, or that sets up that you could trade. So you should just be flat during that. Then we do get two legs down here in a second entry, but when you're getting a tight range like this, you're not really looking for second entries. You're just looking to get long off the lows or short off the highs. And you couldn't take this one because it's too bearish, and that's the low. But here you get a little break lower and it turns up. Again, it's a huge bar, 46 ticks, but you could go long one tick above that. There's still room to get out, and it went straight to the top high, so it wouldn't have had any problem getting out of that. I don't see any way to get short or long after that. You got a failed breakout here, but that's your signal bar, and it's too bullish, and it just takes off. Now you do get a close outside here and a new low that bounces. You could call that a triple test, but to me, I would wait. And then you get a higher low here with a second entry long. Notice that high, first entry, second entry, and that's a higher low as well. It's not a perfect signal bar, but I still think you could go long there on a second entry and a higher low off the lows of the range. And it does take off. It's just working sideways, nothing you can enter there. And you do get a close outside, move to a new high. Maybe you go short here on this failed breakout. The channel's played out. You get a little failed breakout. Again, you're better off to wait on the lower high, which comes here. Normally, I'd say that's moved too far for a lower high, but it's right at the highs of the range, so you could trade it as a range entry. And then you get another test here, so now you've tried to go higher 3 times. And this is a first entry, second entry as well. And you could have actually entered this on the engulfing bar because it's completely bullish. It broke higher and failed and turned down. Or you could just wait here and go short either way. And this runs all the way to the lows and bounces again. Again, it's a very huge bar, but it qualifies for an entry. You get a higher low here. Again, 48 ticks. I mean, it's just the way it is on a day like this, so you got to take it or leave it. Works all the way back up here, and we end up confirming a trend line down through here. And notice that's a new low, so that's a second entry short right at a key entry point. That's lows swings lower than that one because you have a higher low right here on this bar, so that gives you a little swing low right there. So your count starts over, first entry, second entry, and it just takes off. I don't see anything else in here until we get here. And then we turn down again off and confirm that trend line and then get a lower high here. You've got room to get out. I like that one. Then you get another second entry. You do get a close outside, but it turns down right off the mid. Let me back up. You get a close outside this salmon colored channel here. And then you get a second entry short, but it's right off the midline of the main channel, and we just turned off down off of it a few more times there. So I think you can go short there. Turns out to be a pretty good move. And then we get 2 legs back to the trend line. It didn't break. It's not a perfect signal bar, and you can see the low there is 34.75 and the low there is 34.50. So it does break lower on that bar by a tick, but you really almost have a 3-bar matching low, and this bar makes the high. So you know it's 1 tick difference there. So maybe you enter that trade, but it's not a perfect setup. I would only be willing to mark it green because it's clearly 2 legs back to the trend line in a big downtrend. And it takes off. And then you get another little 2-legged correction here. It's really just a range sideways, but it kind of makes a new high there. It's not a perfect signal bar. I just skip it. And notice we don't get to the lows here, and then we get 2 legs back, and you get a second entry there. Your high is 24.50 on that one. And so it makes a 2-bar matching high, but you're not back to the trend line. That was the main reason I didn't like this one. But this has played out. You get a close and new high. I just don't think you're taking a chance by going long there. It looks a little sideways and congested too, because you want to get back to this trend line. And you just don't do it. You do make a lower high here and get back to it, but that's your signal bar and it doesn't qualify. You could say there's a reversal continuation here. Maybe you take that, but again, I'm just not crazy about it. And we finally drop on down here and bounce right off the lows again. Normally I'd say you could take this as rejection, but there's not enough room to really scalp out here safely. So just skip that one. And you can see you definitely got rejection there. It takes off. And then we are up here, we're working sideways, and then we fail and break lower, but there's a triple test here. It's 2 legs back. It confirms that trend line. It's a good signal bar. I mean, there's multiple areas of confluence right in here. So I like going long on that bar. It just takes off too. That's a good entry. And comes back. No setup here this time. Takes off again, and you're just kind of chopping around. I don't see anything I'd really want to take there. Now we get a break of this channel here. It tries to make a new high, but it never does. But notice this new low, and you get a first entry. And so that's a second entry short right there. But I think you got a new trend channel working up here. You do get a close outside and a new high. Maybe you take it. You'd be better off to wait on the lower high, which just really doesn't set up. Then it comes back. No setup there. You can't go short there. And then now you get a triple test. Again, it's a big bar, but not as big as some of the ones we were seeing. But you're basically going long here on range rules and going short here on range rules. And both of them work. And you might even take this one. You clearly got at least a triple test, and you could even argue this is a lower high. So, I mean, you could take this one too. You might even argue for that to be red. I can't remember why I didn't like that in real time. But looking back at it, maybe I just was not paying close enough attention. I think you can make that red. It's clearly at least a triple test, and you're clearly working sideways there. I don't know why I didn't like that. Maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention and overlooked it. But you get the trend down, close outside new low, and we go into this. It's a spiking channel down is what it is. And you actually get a second entry short right here, but it doesn't trigger on the signal bar. It triggers on the inside bar, and I didn't like that one. So you can't take that trade. And then we start working sideways here, and once again you get like a triple, quadruple test. And there's still plenty of room to the low here. I like going short on that one. That works down to almost a new low. It works down to the lower side of the channel. And then 2 legs back. There is a second entry short right here. This is like almost 3 minutes into the 2:30 hour, or after 2:30. So I just don't think you could take that. But if it wasn't after 2:30, you could take this and the lower high here. Actually, technically, that's not a lower high. Um, I probably would wait on the lower high here. Um, Technically, okay, let me back up here. Here's your signal bar, so you couldn't go short there, but you could on this one, and that's too far in, so that's why I didn't mark that. Just forget what I said there. But notice it's two legs up, and this was your signal bar though, not this one, and so that's the reason you couldn't go short below this one. And then you basically make a double top, so that's a lower high. That would have been the one, and it's too far into 230, past 230. I mean, it's 235 almost, so no trades there. You hear me say this from time to time. Don't take any trades after 2:30. But if it's like in the first bar or two, and it's only like a minute or so in, if you got a really good setup, like a perfect setup, you could take it. Just don't go much more than a bar or two into the 2:30 hour. And now, if you're managing a runner, you can continue to manage that well into 2:30. Don't worry too much about that. Just don't take any new trades after 2:30. But there it is. And in the end, it's just a big range day. We gapped up, and then we were range bound the rest of the day. So lots of trades today, though. Many more trades than we've been seeing. We've had some really kind of weak trading days. Had a good trend a couple of days, but there just weren't any setups. So it is what it is. And somebody else sent me an email today, and they were so happy to see a range day because they said they do really well on ranges. And I will be the first to say I like range days, especially when it's consistent. Like this range is here, you consistently get to go long off the lows and consistently get to go short off the highs. And I mean to do that. And even down here, you had another one. There just wasn't room to scalp out there before those highs. And you're in a big downtrend too, so it makes it risky. But yeah, pretty good trading day. Um, so I hope you had a good trading day. Hope you learned something today. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. Believe it or not, tomorrow's Thursday and wraps up our week. So feels like kind of a short week this week. But maybe it's because of the holiday last week. I don't know. And I've been busy this week as well. But we'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm going to wrap it up for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.